Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Coming up tonight on Our News, the Commissioner of Police defending officers' enforcement of COVID-19 protocols. The Agriculture Minister talks the framework for a hemp industry in the country. And a little later, why some Malia hotel workers say they finally have closure. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Police Commissioner today defending the enforcement of COVID-19 restrictions by police officers. This after a video reported to be a business owner being cited for violating restrictions went viral. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
What we've been having a lot of recently is people operating illegally. Things like you're operating a bar. Those things are not permitted.
Police Commissioner Paul Roll clearing the air defending how police are enforcing COVID restrictions. This after a video recorded by a businessman went viral. The businessman claims his establishment was targeted by officers despite being empty.
This is what I got to put up with. You would think they would walk and check, and leave. But no, it wasn't that simple. There you go. He said he still got to write a ticket. So if you ever speak outside.
He was disingenuous because he was cited for loud music that was being played on the outside, and the officers walk inside and they were talking. There's nobody inside. You're not going to cite anybody in there. But then it gives the impression as though the police have done something wrong.
These people lost. Just walk in your place and write ticket like they're giving them free money.
The commissioner says police have been doing their jobs, enforcing the law since restrictions were put in place. However, he says there is a negative perception of police.
We don't go out of our way to try to cause any unnecessary hardship or embarrassment to people. But we simply ask people to let us abide by these protocols that have been put in place so that this is for the betterment of everybody.
However, Roll says there have been instances where he thought police didn't act appropriately.
There were a few I had to intervene in where I felt that officers, did not act quite properly, and we dealt with it. And so we try to sensitize officers, but then I also want to sensitize the business owners.
As more businesses open, Roll urges business owners and patrons to simply follow the law. He had this warning for anyone seeking to operate without permission from the competent authority.
I would ask those people not to attempt to open, because if they do, then we have a duty to shut them down. We don't want to do that, but if you test us, then we will do.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, Minister of Health Renward Wells tabling the Health Services COVID-19 Aid for Loss or Injury Rules 2021, which provides that people who believe they were injured or suffered loss as a result of an approved COVID-19 vaccine may apply for compensation.
These are the regulations that we will be laying that is going to help lead the charge in regards to our procurement of the vaccine for COVID-19.
When the first shipment of the AstraZeneca vaccine set to arrive in the Bahamas in the coming weeks, many have expressed hesitation about taking the vaccine. The vaccine is one of a few that have been approved by the World Health Organization for emergency use. Also tabled in the House today, the Emergency COVID-19 Pandemic Risk Management Amendment No. 5 Order 2021. The order tabled by Deputy Prime Minister Desmond Bannister extends the nightly curfew on Grand Bahama and 21-day Haiti ban. In other news, Bahamians and not foreigners will benefit from any commercial production of medical marijuana or industrial hemp. That assurance given by Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources Michael Pintard in the House of Assembly today. Jasmine Brown reports.
That it's not going to be persons who are already living large, as young people say, who pocket gunky, will not be at the front of the line to ensure that they continue to benefit from the very area that has incarcerated so many Bahamians for years.
That was the assurance given by the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources in Parliament today. Pintard addressing the issue during debate on the Biological Resources and Traditional Knowledge Bill 2020. Earlier this month, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced the government is in the process of completing legislation to legalize medical marijuana in the Bahamas. Pintard also revealing the groundwork for a medical marijuana industry is already being done at the ministry level.
The Ministry of Agriculture, on a technical basis, is beginning the preparation in the event that the cabinet determines that is the route that it's going to go.
The minister adds that industrial hemp is an opportunity waiting to explode in the Bahamas for the production of a wide range of products. Pintard says the government intends to move quickly to develop a hemp industry.
We have had numerous consultations with various stakeholders, and we are excited of the prospect of moving in that direction fairly quickly. So we have met to date with more than 7 Bahamian companies.
He says an education campaign is one of the first steps.
We want to make it clear for those who confuse industrial hemp with the stuff that some folks used to smoke when they were in school. Because in this regard, you and I are alike. You get the benefits or without the buzz.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
House Speaker Halson Moultrie says despite the fact that he quit the Free National Movement Party earlier this month, he has no agenda against the governing party. Moultrie making the comments during the start of House of Assembly proceedings this morning.
I understand that some people, particularly in the media, are suggesting that there might be a contrary purpose of this presiding officer. But I want to assure all members of this House, as well as the general public, that there is no personal vendetta by this presiding officer against the majority party or against the minority party.
Moultrie resigned from the FNM 2 weeks ago, announcing he intends to serve as an independent member until the House is either prorogued for the purpose of electing a new speaker or dissolved for the general election. Over the past several months, he has repeatedly lamented the lack of independence of the Parliament from the executive branch. Now, Moultrie says it is his intention to uphold the rules and hold both the governing party and opposition accountable.
My intention is to hold you members to the rules of procedure, to the constitutional function, to maintain the proper decorum in this Parliament, and to move ahead.
Well, partly cloudy conditions outside the R News studios. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Warm day around the islands, and of course we have a warm night outside our studios. Temperatures are in the mid-70s, 75 degrees with just a few clouds outside. The winds are out of the southeast at around 8 knots. Feels like temperature still in the mid-70s. Satellite-wise around the area, that frontal boundary that was parked across the northern Bahamas is lifting towards the north. High pressure continues to dominate, bringing us a southeast southerly flow, couple of patchy clouds, maybe some small showers expected tonight. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Ahead on our news, Malia Resort workers can now move on after months of uncertainty. Plus, why the union representing airport workers is not pleased with government. The answer when we return.
Y'all looking for me? Yeah, man. Say, she trying to call you, but you ain't answering your phone. Oh, Galik. What? That's what it is. Yeah, man, you mean Kaliko? No, plug it in. Miss Owen, I ain't nothing to do with Miss Owen. I don't know why she ain't paying you. I know. What's your name? Is Doris? I know Kaliko looking for Doris. You are so beautiful.
Why would he even choose this profession? Hold on, girl. Wait.
You don't wanna be late. Let's go.
After being in limbo for nearly a year, Malia Nassau Beach workers can finally move on, according to the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union president. Here's Jillian Gray.
Malia Nassau Beach employees finally have closure, according to Hotel Union President Darren Woods. This comes after employees learned this week that the resort would be closing for 2 years, beginning next month.
We've been trying to ascertain from the hotel a reopening date. They were unable or unwilling to give us a date as to when they were going to reopen. Now we know, as of March 1st, that the employment of those persons down at the Malia Hotel will then come to an end.
The Hotel Union president says some employees are seeking employment elsewhere while others are starting businesses. In recent weeks, Malia employees have been upset over stalled unemployment payments. Woods says those funds will be paid out along with redundancy pay.
Of course, they are going to be treated under the severance provision that says they will get 2 weeks notice and 2 weeks for every year of service. And whether it's completed or not, then it'll be prorated from that point on. So for them, they will be receiving redundancy pay.
With Malia employees out of work for the next 2 years and Club Med employees not set to return to work for at least until the end of the year, Woods said it's a very trying time for their industry. They haven't seen the usual spring break bookings, which he says is an indication that they may not see an uptick in the industry until at least the third quarter of this year.
The industry is volatile, and the industry is struggling to come back. And whether it's because of some decisions that would have been made by outside forces in that nothing was done to help to flatten the curve of this virus earlier. The main thing is to get the virus under control.
As the Bahamas' COVID-19 numbers are relatively low, Woods says the destination is a safe one, and they're hoping for a rebound in the tourism industry soon. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Meanwhile, the Bahamas Public Services Union isn't pleased with the response from the Ministry of Tourism and Aviation announcing its commitment to pay outstanding fees to workers starting next month. Berthany McDermott reports.
On this particular issue, we will not stand down. Industrial action will take place. We expect someone to call us to the table so that we can have a discussion, and we collectively, not unilaterally, can make a decision.
Bahamas Public Services Union President Kimsley Ferguson not pleased with the Ministry of Tourism and Aviation's press release announcing government's intention to pay airport authority employees money owed to them over a 6-month period beginning March. Ferguson says the statement wasn't enough and the decision seems to have been made without union input.
We need dates. We need definitive times on when monies will be paid, and that can only happen through having a discussion. We are the bargaining agent. The government is not the bargaining agent. They're the employer. They owe these people.
Ferguson says he feels the tourism minister is using this as an election tool.
He wanted to come out and make it appear that they're compassionate and they're being sympathetic towards these people when they're trying to mount up political brownie points. But this may be the election season for them. But I'm going to tell you, I have a job to do, and we're going to get it done.
The statement notes that the ministry has remained fully committed to honoring all agreed terms of the industrial agreement, and the current financial constraints of the COVID-19 pandemic did not make it possible to honor the payments.
When I made my passionate plea to the Prime Minister and to the Minister of Tourism, nobody had a regard. That was when the country was booming.
Now Ferguson is calling on the Prime Minister to meet with the union to discuss the details. He's looking for specific dates as to when his members will receive their money. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, a look at public-private partnerships to help fund Family Island airports and a high-scoring game for a Bahamian baller. The details when Our News returns.
Y'all looking for me? Yeah, man. She trying to call you, but you ain't answering your phone. Oh, Galek. What? That's it, baby. Yeah, man, you mean Kaliko?
No, plug it in.
Miss Oya, I ain't got nothing to do with Miss Oya. I don't know why she ain't paying you.
I know. What's your name? Is Doris? I know Kaliko looking for you, Doris.
You are so beautiful.
Why would he even choose this profession? Hold on, girl. Wait.
You don't wanna be late. Let's go.
This is Our News. Welcome back. The technological arm of the Royal Bahamas Police Force now has a new home. The $20 million real-time crime center opening today, housing the police control room, shot spotter technology, and COVID-19 emergency lines. During the ceremony, Police Commissioner Paul Roll explained since deploying 158 dash and body cams last year, the force has recorded over 5,300 hours of footage that has helped to close a number of cases.
There have been several requests for footage recording during police operations for clarity on particular events, complaints on corruption purposes, and 2 homicide investigations. This organization is committed to transparency.
National Security Minister Marvin Dames says police will also use the center as a headquarters for the Marcos alert system, and billboards are being constructed to assist with that system as well as ShotSpotter.
Cabinet would have recently a few weeks ago, approve the acquisition of software that will allow us to, on a minute's notice, to disseminate information wherever we want, however we want, as quickly as we want.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis thanking officers for their work throughout the pandemic, saying they should be paid more.
God knows for what you do, you are underpaid. And at this point in time, God also knows that we cannot pay you what you deserve.
Well, government is now getting set to upgrade airports on Family Islands, including Abaco, Eleuthera, Exuma, and Long Island. This comes after the Prime Minister last month revealed that additional funding to complete those projects would have to be sourced from public-private partnerships, or PPPs. Here with some insight on funding those projects is RF Assistant VP of Investments, David Slatter.
Good evening, Christina.
Good evening, David, and welcome. So can you tell us a little bit more, what is a PPP?
Sure. As you mentioned, it's a public-private partnership, and it's a situation where the government may have a public asset, but they need to raise private capital to make improvements. So in this case, looking at upgrading, I think initially 4 of the out-island airports, Exuma, North Eleuthera, Long Island, and in Marsh Harbor. And, so the private sector has the capital, the government has the asset, and it's an opportunity for private capital to generate, hopefully, a decent rate of return. Our view is it's going to be structured much like the NAD 7.5% participating debt note that came out a couple of years ago. So what you have is the revenue is primarily as a result of passenger load. So my thinking is you can expect a slight increase in the cost of travel when flying through any of these airports, because there'll be an additional passenger fee tacked on, and that'll be the income or the revenue that's used to repay the interest and eventually the principal to the investor.
And are there ways that people who are interested in investing can find out more about how they can get involved?
Right. So, usually you go through one of the local brokerage houses. Of course, I work at RF, the RF group, and we're going to be doing the placements. So if you have any questions or you'd like to invest, contact RF, and we will, once the offering comes to market, then we can assist. So we expect it to come to market shortly, so pay attention to the media. And once it is available and you have any questions, contact RF and we will help.
All right, and you told us a little bit more about what those PPPs are. Can you tell us how they may be structured?
All right, so I haven't received the offering memorandum yet, but I would imagine it'll be similar to what was done with NAD a few years ago, and it'll be what's called a PIC, or a participating debt note, and it operates much like a bond. So there'll be an interest rate, there'll be a scheduled interest payment. But the difference here is that the issuer has the option to, instead of paying the interest, to capitalize it and add it to the principal, and therefore the interest after that would be more. So it's slightly different than a normal bond, a little more risk than a normal bond, but I think the rate and the repayment schedule will be such that it'll be an attractive investment for most investors, not all, but many.
All right, well, thank you so much for that insight, and we're looking forward to hearing about those upgrades and how they'll impact the Family Islands.
Thank you, Christina.
Well, tonight in sports, DeAndre Ayton and the Suns burned by the red-hot Nets in a high-scoring game. Here's Marcellus Hall.
All right, thanks, Christina. Tell you what, it's been a pretty good year for DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns as of late. Heading into this first half of the season, they sit in 4th place in the Western Conference and looking pretty good to make the playoffs. Last night, taking on one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the Brooklyn Nets. Let's just say it's not how you start, but how you finish. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns have been red hot as of late. The team has been playing extremely good basketball, sitting in 4th place in the Western Conference. They took on the Brooklyn Nets in last night's contest, and things started out pretty well. At one point, the Suns led by as many as 24 points, led by 21 at the half. Unfortunately, though, this game is played in 4 quarters, and back come the Brooklyn Nets. They score 70-plus points in the second half alone, come roaring back behind 38 points, 11 assists, and 7 rebounds from James Harden. They defeat DeAndre and the Phoenix Suns 128-124, a difficult loss, a disappointing loss for the Phoenix Suns, who now fall to 17-10. As for DeAndre, he had a pretty pedestrian night, 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists on 7 of 9 shooting. He played 34 minutes on the night, but again, like I said, a difficult loss for the Phoenix Suns. They now have to go back to the drawing board. Next game for them will come your way just after tomorrow. They'll play on Friday when they take on the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson. And that's your check on sports here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. When our news returns, Greg is back in the weather studio with a look ahead. Stay with us.
Y'all looking for me? Yeah, man. Say, she trying to call you, but you ain't answering your phone. Oh, Galek. What? That's what it is. Yeah, man, you mean Kaliko?
Not plugging it in.
Miss Owen, I ain't nothing to do with Miss Owen. I don't know why she ain't paying you. I know. What's your name? Is Doris? I know Kaliko looking for you, Doris.
You are so beautiful.
Why would he even choose this profession? Hold on, girl. Wait.
You don't wanna be late. Let's go.
Welcome back to our news. Windy conditions may be ahead. Here's Greg back in the Weather Center.
Thanks again, Christina. Our second look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Lactogen 3 from 1 year onward, distributed by Lightburn Trading Limited. Satellite view around the area. That frontal boundary parked across the northern islands has shifted towards the north into central Florida. High pressure is building back across us, generating those breezy conditions across the islands. This frontal boundary will continue to move towards the north and away from us. Next system we're watching across south central United States. A low pressure system will develop in the Gulf of Mexico, dragging a frontal boundary across us by Friday into Saturday, so some showers expected on the weekend. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Winds will be out of the southeast at 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. While in the southeast Bahamas, we have an advisory post a few guys down there. East to southeasterly wind flow 15 to 25 knots. Seas be running 5 to 8 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night, everyone. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, 2 men getting a new lease on life after getting their criminal records expunged. Here's Giorgio Bain.
2 young men receiving a second chance today as their records are expunged here at the Ministry of National Security. This after they committed crimes such as armed robbery and assaulting a police officer. Today, those young men walk away with a brighter future. Devard Cash, who grew up in the Montel Heights area, says he was lured into the gang lifestyle at an early age. The desire to fit in drove him to commit armed robbery at the age of 16. The cloud of his offense has haunted him since.
The incident happened I think it's in the summer of 2008, where I enter a store and I attack and rob a guy with a piece of 2x4. I was 16.
How did it feel finding out that you had been given a second chance?
Well, I only could give God thanks,
Calvin Sargent, a former nightclub security guard, was charged with assaulting a police officer after a fight at the establishment back in 2016. Today, Sargent walked away with his expungement instruments.
With his expungement instrument, which will clear his name forever. This is your second chance.
11 offenders had their records expunged in 2021, but Rehabilitation of Offenders Committee head Paul Farquharson says the number of applications continue to climb.
We have to probably meet 2 or 3 times a week now to address, or per month, to address the volume of applications coming out.
Bahamas Bar Association President Khalil Parker says a number of applications have been made, but some have been declined.
Sometimes the denial is not it's not a never, sometimes it's a not now.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Season 4 of the RTV original The New Sawyer Boy TV show begins right now. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.